He leaves behind his wife, 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. When someone has been a part of a community for as long as Roger was, their passing is felt by more than just their immediate family. They become part of the story and history of the place they called home. On behalf of the council, I want to extend our sincere condolences to Chi-Chi, the entire Wood family, and all of Roger's friends and loved ones. I hope they can find comfort in the many years of memories they shared with him and in knowing how much he meant to those around him. For anyone who would like to pay their respects, Roger's viewing will be this Thursday, 13th from 4 to 7 at Wilson's. His burial will be private, and a celebration of life will be held on Wednesday, August 26th at 10 a.m. at the community center. Roger clearly loved Atwater, and I think it is fitting that his life will be ultimately celebrated right here in the community he called home. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Wood family, and we will be adjourning this meeting in Roger's memory. Thank you. Okay, so do we have any subsequent need items?
There are none.
Okay, I need approval of the agenda as posted.
So moved.
Second. Sorry, who was that first? Okay, so motion by Raymond, second by Rochester. Rochester?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, so comments from the public.
At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record, however, it is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and replaced on a future agenda. Please limit comments to maximum of 3 minutes.
Okay, under the Brown Act, members of the public must address the city council as the legislative body of the city, not other members of the public or staff. As previously mentioned, this meeting is conducted in a hybrid model with both in-person and virtual attendance. To request to speak, either use the raised hand function in Zoom or dial *9 if joining by phone. I am now opening public comment.
We have a speaker card from Shirley Davis.
Okay. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor Nelson and the council. My name is Shirley Davis, Atwater. I am standing before you today for our Legacy Ball, Exhortation to Unity. We are having our Legacy Ball. I think we came and gave some information about that. We are looking forward to you all coming, as well as the community, as it is open up to the community as well. And it would be remiss of me not to mention Mr. Wood. Not only is our event a fundraiser, it is also an award ceremony for those in our community who are doing amazing work. And we are honoring Mr. Wood in that ceremony. And our hearts and condolences go out to his family and his wife. And so we would like for the council to come and support them, us, and the community as we feed the hungry, those who are unhoused, our seniors, and those who suffer with food insufficiency. It is a heart mission for us, and we are looking to raise money to continue that effort in a mobile unit. So if you guys would come, we would appreciate it, and we're going to have a great time just as we did last time. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Is there any other member of the public that would like to speak? If so, please come forward.
Joe Hoffer, Atwater Police Activities Lead. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, city staff, and members of our community. Tonight, I would like to take a few minutes to recognize someone who has made a lasting difference in our community, retiring Police Chief McEachin. Chief McEachin understood that effective policing is about more than responding to calls. It is about building relationships, earning trust, and being present in the community, especially with our young people. His commitment to community policing has helped create an environment where our police officers are not just seen as people who respond when something goes wrong, but as a member of our community who cares about the people they serve. That philosophy has been especially important to Atwater PAL. Atwater PAL is built around the simple idea: every kid needs a pal. Our goal is to give young people positive opportunities, positive relationships, and positive role models. We want our youth to know the law enforcement officers are people they can talk to, learn from, and trust. Chief McKeachin supported that vision, and his support has helped us move Atwater PAL forward, whether it was supporting youth programs, encouraging community involvement, or simply recognizing the importance of connecting our officers with young people. His leadership made a difference. So Chief McKeachin, on behalf of Atwater PAL and the young people we serve, thank you. Thank you for believing in community policing. Thank you for supporting Atwater PAL, and thank you for understanding that investing in our youth today helps build a stronger and safer Atwater tomorrow. As we say goodbye to Chief McKeachin in his role as our police chief, we also have an opportunity to look forward. I would like to welcome incoming Chief Bill Novinsky. Chief Novinsky, Atwater PAL looks forward to working with you and your department. We hope to continue the foundation that Chief McKeachin helped build and take community policing to the next level. We believe there's a tremendous potential for Atwater Police Department, Atwater PAL, our schools, our community organizations, and our young people to work together. Our youth are not just the future of Atwater, they are part of Atwater today. We want them to have a voice, we want them to have opportunities, and we want them to develop positive relations with the people who serve and protect their community. Chief Novinsky, we look forward to standing alongside you as we continue building these relationships. And to Chief McKeachin, thank you for helping show us that community policing can look what it looks like. We appreciate your service, your leadership, and your support for Atwater PAL. Thank you, and congratulations to both chiefs as we move forward into our next chapter for the Atwater Police Department and our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else? This is for something that's not on the agenda.
No, this is on the agenda.
Okay, well, you can wait till we do that piece, yeah. Anybody else for items not on the agenda?
Rich Miller, 334 Silva Drive, here in Atwater, also pastor of Victory Baptist Church, 1280 Sierra Vista Street. First off, I want to apologize because I'm going to have to leave here after public comment. Normally, I find it rude to do that, but I am going to have to leave. Second, I want to thank you all once again for your hospitality, your love, your support over the last 16 and a half years that I have pastored in this community. Third, I want to invite you all out, as Sunday will be our last service. My family and I, as we'll be leaving on Tuesday, the 18th, to head to the Midwest. And we're going to be having a service at 10 a.m. And then we'll be having food afterwards. We're Baptists, so we believe in meeting and eating. Amen. And so we'll have food afterwards, and then afternoon service where I'll be able to hand the baton off to the next pastor, Pastor Teeny, who I believe some of you have met. Because I know that not everybody's going to be able to make it, I do believe the last time that I stand before this council and before our community, it would be important for me to share something from the scripture. And so the people of my church would be amazed to know that I can probably get something out in a minute and a half, but I'm going to do it. Romans 10:1 says this: "Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved." And for those that are not familiar with the scriptures, the Apostle Paul was a man by the name of Saul until Jesus Christ entered his life, and his life was turned around. He actually was a persecutor of Christians, and then when he trusted Christ as his Savior, he became a promoter of Christ. And he's actually given recognition for writing over half of the New Testament. And his desire was that his people would come to know Christ the way that he had come to know Christ. And if I could leave the council, if I could leave our community with one message, if there was one thing I could say, it would be threefold. Number one, I hope you know that God loves you. I hope that my life has shown you that God loves you. John 3:16 is very clear: "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." The problem is that you and I have not always loved God, and our sin has separated us from God. But the Bible then goes on to tell us that not only does God love us, but that Jesus died for us. In Romans 5:8, it says, but God commendeth his love toward us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And so God loves us. Christ died for us. And I hope that you know that Pastor Miller would want you, like Paul, to be saved. And if you don't know Jesus Christ the way that Paul did, the way that I do, I hope that you'll believe on him. Romans 10:13 says, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I made it before my timer. Thank you.
Fairy dust? What's that? Tonight I wanted to bring up a couple of things. I don't know how many people are subject to this other than myself, but there's a lot. These door-to-door salesmen that are coming up and knocking as late as 9 o'clock at night. Am I all right? Okay. Any case, the door-to-door salesman, if I have another one come up and try to sell me, some solar outfit or something along those lines, I'm going to go nuts. This is getting out of hand, and I had one at my door here just a 3 days ago, and was so persistent I had to just about threaten to throw him off my property. He was just wouldn't say, or he wouldn't understand when I said no. I'm not interested. See you later. Have a nice day. And he just persisted. Then there was somebody I saw in a social media post that said that they were at her door at 9 o'clock at night. This is nuts. They're sizing up houses or something. I don't know. But there's no identification. There's nothing on there. My understanding is they should be going through the city to get permission to go and do this. The city needs to get together and put together some rules for these door-to-door salesmen, so that they understand when somebody like myself says, no, I'm not interested, that's the end of it. And so they're on their way. It's just got to stop. This is way over the top, way over the top. Second thing I wanted to bring up, and I've brought this up in the past, is about these electric bikes. This past week, I had occasion to notice 3 separate deals that it scared the hell out of me. One was, there was a guy who was driving on one of these e-bikes, and he had a little girl, probably 3 years old, riding in between his legs while he went roaring down the street. No helmets, no nothing. There's some people here tonight that are mourning the loss of a child on a bike. We're going to be doing that again. These e-bikes are going to get somebody greased. There's no getting around it. Another incident I had was I was coming down Fruitland, and here comes 3 young ladies, teenage types, on electric scooters off Dakota right onto Fruitland, and I just about got all 3 of them. They just did not pay attention. The other thing was, I saw one yesterday where a guy is out now driving around with an e-bike, and he's got a trailer behind it like he's out doing business or something. And they're crossing over Winton Way. They're out there crossing over streets and things. It's just getting out of hand. Please, as a council, if you can put together ordinance that can address this, please do so. This is going to get somebody killed.
All right, thank you. We're already working on that, by the way. Anybody else have anything you want to say? Okay, seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close public comment. So we're going to move on to the consent calendar.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If a council member requests separate discussion on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Are there any public comments regarding the consent calendar? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close the public comment. Are there any items on the consent calendar the council would like to remove for separate discussion? Seeing none, who would like to make the motion?
I move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion by Kale, second by Raymond. Raymond?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester? Yes. Nelson?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All righty, so we're on to item 6 under public hearings. Waiving the first reading by title only and introducing an ordinance adopting zoning ordinance text amendment, amending chapter 17.12 entitled Administration and General Conditions of the Atwater Municipal Code, and adopting zoning map amendment to the official Atwater zoning map, and adopting a resolution approving an addendum to the EIR, adopting the general plan amendments to update the general plan land use element, and adopting the state-approved housing element to implement state law requirements. So I'm now going to open the public hearing, and staff, Community Development Director Land will be presenting the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, members of the community. I'm Johnny Land, Community Development Director for the City of Atwater. What you have before you are entitlements to address the consideration of our sixth cycle housing element. That includes considering the opportunity sites for rezone to comply with that document. The housing element is one chapter or element of the city's general plan. The element itself, the chapter, is updated on an 8-year cycle with pretty intense oversight by the state of California. A comprehensive assessment of current and future housing needs for all residents of the city of Atwater. It's the primary focus of the housing element to ensure decent, safe, sanitary, and affordable housing for current and future residents, including those with special needs. And affordable means just a range of affordability from very low income to special populations to market rate housing. Since 1969, California law has required that all cities and counties demonstrate how they will meet the housing needs of everyone in the community. The state forecasts the need for housing based on population projections, and then each region must show how it will accommodate that need. So the requirements for housing elements or housing chapters is that the city must have adequate sites inventory, and that is an inventory of land suitable for residential development that would accommodate the county's regional housing needs allocation, which we also call RHNA. There's a constraints and barriers analysis, which is an evaluation of governmental and non-governmental barriers to housing production. So those are the entitlements, the reviews that could create barriers and constraints, time, environmental, that could create the constraints to this housing approval and production, ultimately for those housing units to be built. Housing elements create goals, policies, and implementation programs, and they are identifying of specific policies and actions to implement the housing chapter. There are also other analysis, policies, and goals to meet community housing needs and or to comply with state law. So the RHNA, or Regional Housing Needs Assessment, is a state mandated process that qualifies housing needs for each jurisdiction. It helps communities plan for smart, sustainable growth. MCAG, our regional government, distributes the state assigned housing need across Merced County and develops RHNA methodology in consultation with HCD. So the state gave MCAG our region's numbers, and then MCAG used a methodology to assign units to each jurisdiction within the county, including the county itself. The final output, it's divided by 5 income categories. There's extremely low, which is less than 30% of the median income. The median income is an assigned number for income level for 4 people. Every county has different income. Some counties have the same based on the assignment, but for us, That AMI is for extremely low is less than 30% of that median income. And then there's very low, which is 30 to 50% of the AMI or median income. Low, which is 50 to 80% of the median income. Moderate, which is 80 to 120% of the median income. And above moderate is 120% or more. So that's more your market rate units. So for Atwater, with those categories, we are required to provide opportunities to develop 423 extremely low income units, 345 very low income units, 526 low income units, 508 moderate income units, and 1,215 above moderate income units. All total, Atwater is assigned to provide opportunities to build 3,017 units total. And again, some have asked if the city of Atwater has to build these units. And that is not what the state of California is requiring us to do, though we would like to create programs as part of our mitigation to help support some of the more affordable housing, to address the affordable housing projects if possible. We are just required by state law to provide opportunities, sites that are ready and zoned for these units to be built. And so that is the goal of this exercise. So the background is that the City of Atwater fifth cycle, and again, these are cycles, we call them cycle, it's a sort of a planarese or term with the state. Round. It's the fifth round, the sixth round, where we're going through this process. So the fifth round, the last housing element, Atwater had a RHNA goal of 1,760 units, and during this period, there were 427 building permits for new construction, which basically achieved 24% of that goal. This sixth cycle, it was supposed to start basically January 31st, 2024, and last through January 31st, 2032. Clearly, we're in 2026, so we're getting a false start, and I'll go into that in a little bit later. But this document and these rezones must be approved by the City Council and then submitted to HCD for us to be compliant. Atwater housing element is part of the Merced County multi-jurisdictional housing element. It was a regional effort initially, and technically it's identified as Appendix B of the larger document, and it's organized into 7 sections. Review of past accomplishments, public participation, housing needs assessment, housing constraints analysis, affirmatively furthering fair housing, housing resources and site inventory, and then the housing plan. The site inventory is based on Government Code Section 65583A3. It requires local governments to prepare an inventory of land suitable for residential development, including vacant sites and sites with the potential for redevelopment. That would be sites that could be redeveloped or added to provide some of these units. The housing element must demonstrate through the site inventory that the city has capacity to meet its share of the RHNA, that we provide the potential for these units to be built. To meet the RHNA, the city identified, planned, and approved projects, which are projects that are already in the development process. And therefore, those projects that were already what we call in the pipeline can be credited towards our RHNA requirement. The city did identify a total of 61 units that were planned that we could credit. And then the remaining 2,956 units would be accommodated through adequate site planning on vacant lots. The site inventory focuses on residential development within or near existing communities with fewer infrastructure and services constraints to support higher density multifamily development. So when we typically choose these sites. The city usually looks at where the resources are, the shopping, the grocery stores, potential, doctors, just where the resources are, so that these high density units could be associated and connected to those resources should they need to be. The rezones, that is what we need to do to provide additional units, or to provide the additional ability to be able to provide the opportunity for the units. This site inventory for the rezones includes a rezoning program that would rezone 20 sites. The sites will be rezoned from low density residential, planned development, general commercial, and business park zones to mostly high density residential. There are a few of these sites that actually are being rezoned to medium density residential or low density residential based on what the units that we need to provide. But generally speaking, most of these sites are being rezoned to high density residential. The maximum density for the high density residential would be 33 units or so per acre. And these sites, all of our rezoned sites, encompasses about 117 acres. We've provided a map for view. So, not knowing how the zoned sites, since I wasn't here, I did want to make sure that I communicated personally with the property owners. We typically notify property owners as well as people within 300 feet of a rezoned site to the action before you tonight. I also made I made a list of the people and tried to contact them through I tried to find additional ways of contacting them, not just through the assessors, the assessors parcel information. And so I was able to talk to several of the property owners, many of them actually, and I have no one who's contesting this activity. So that was good. However, we did have a question from one of the property owners, and I want to basically be able to state that for the record, that if property owners do want to rezone to a non-residential use after this action, then the city would be required to find an alternative site of the same amount of units, at least, to be developed, which is considered our no net loss. It's a state of California requirement. We can't lose any of our residential property that we have zoned in the city. So therefore, we would have to provide an additional site somewhere. We could work with the property owner trying to determine what site might work. We also do have potential annexations that could account for those units at a later time too. So there are opportunities later to potentially find units to replace these sites with, if we need to. The text amendment. So the state law requires us to adopt a by right ordinance that it's defined by right approval as a ministerial approval. It's not subject to discretionary review or public hearings like conditional use permits, plan developments, design review, any other discretionary review or approval. We can look at it through objective standards, but that would have to be something that's more ministerial. It's not something subject to subjective review. Jurisdictions must allow housing development on identified opportunity sites to proceed without that discretionary action and any action that would constrain or delay the development. We are adding section 17, 12 to 50, which is a by right approval to Title 17 of the Municipal Code. And that's applicable for housing development that includes at least 20% affordable units, deed restricted for low income and very low income households. So basically, if a market rate project came in, we could apply standards that are not just, we could apply a discretionary review potentially, but that's something that we'll talk about later as we look at the zoning ordinance and how we want to support development. So this The city's sixth cycle housing element was due on January 31st, 2024. Due to staffing shortages and capacity constraints, that led to a delay. I believe that we actually started the process in 2023, 2022. At least most of the multi-jurisdictional efforts started earlier. On March 24th, 2026, HCD issued a notice of violation to the city. That is the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development, just to make sure for the record, the community knows that. HCD concluded the city is currently in violation of housing element law under Government Code Section 65585. And approval of these rezones and the housing element document would bring us into full compliance, as well as approval of that by right ordinance we just talked about. So the review history with HCD, I wanted to sort of go through that with you all. July 2nd, 2024, they reviewed an initial draft submitted by the city. And as I mentioned, I believe a lot of this happened earlier than that, because by the time you get to an initial draft, you've done a lot of work. And in September, HCD issued findings identifying multiple deficiencies, March 14th, 2025, we had a revised draft. May 18th, HCD issued a second findings letter. September to December, multiple requests for HCD came, and we were trying to get ourselves, we had some turnover in staff. And so finally in April of this year, we had a revised draft that we submitted. HCD issued preliminary findings in May. We submitted another revised draft in June. HCD provided a letter of what I call substantial compliance. So what that means is they said everything looks good in the document, everything looks good in your rezone sites, you just have to rezone. So that they couldn't give us the substantial compliance approval because we didn't have those rezones already approved. We then wanted to change a few things for economic development reasons. So we submitted to HCD on July 20th, and then we did receive another letter back of support for those changes on Friday. So, we sort of right coming in right at the end here. If we do not approve what's before you today, there are consequences to noncompliance. One is enforcement action by the state of California, and another is loss of funding. And I do know that the city of Atwater has missed out on funding opportunities because of a lack of a compliant housing element. Going along with this action is an environmental review, which was completed through an addendum to the 2000 General Plan EIR. That was prepared to analyze potential changes in environmental effects associated with the housing element and zoning text amendments and zoning map amendments, and it compares the potential impacts to the impacts analyzed in that original EIR. So you will be considering that, adopting that as well as part of this action. The public participation of this, there was quite a bit of public participation, especially at the beginning of this effort. There was a community workshop in August 2023, community survey that was open from March 2023 to December 2023, a pop-up event actually even earlier than all that, which was May 2023. And then during August 8th to 2023, there were stakeholder interviews. So staff would have gone to Rotary, would have gone to schools and talked to as many stakeholders as possible about this effort and gained their feedback. There was a dedicated project website with updated information. And most recently, there was a public hearing before the Planning Commission last week. And there, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval to the City Council. So staff recommendation is to open the public hearing and receive any testimony given, close the public hearing, make a finding that zoning ordinance text amendment, zoning map amendment, and general plan amendments should not result in new or more severe impacts beyond those addressed in the 2000 general plan EIR, and would not meet any other standards requiring further environmental review under state CEQA guidelines sections 15.162 and 15.163. And motion to adopt ordinance number CS 1083, adopting zoning ordinance text amendment, amending chapter 17.12, administration and general conditions of the Atwater Municipal Code, and amending the City of Atwater zoning map, and motion to adopt resolution 3643-26, adopting addendum to the EIR, adopting the general plan amendments to update the general plan land use element, and adopting the state-approved housing element to implement state law requirements. And I'm here, of course, for any questions you may have.
So I have more of a statement.
Well, thank you for that presentation, Johnny. So, council questions?
Like I said, it's more of a statement. I find it troubling that we're just now finding out about the gross inaction from September 25 to December 25. So I thank you for getting on this and getting this done.
You're welcome.
I thank you for the work on this, Johnny. I do appreciate it so much. I do have a question about the available units. So according to the presentation, we still need 2,956 units roughly, right? And then on the next page, it says that we are averaging about 43 units per acre. So then when I do the math, and there's about 117 acres that are impacted, I'm coming up with 5,096 units. That's pretty substantially over the amount.
Yes, it's a range. So the high density residential requires 20 units per acre to 43 units per acre. We are required by state law to maintain a minimum density of 20 units per acre, but it can go up to the 43. That's not really an average, it's the highest for a site. And it's based on whether or not the site can handle it in the design, but it's an ability to go up to 43 units an acre if that is what the design, kind of can support.
So I think, something that's been expressed to me, and this has absolutely nothing to do with you, it's more about the city's, dragging its feet in getting this accomplished, is that it's been stated to me, and I do believe that it's true, is that, we're kind of rushing to get this approved, and I understand the intent behind it, but as I've stated in the general plan meeting, we also have to know that these sites would be feasible to be able to handle this large number that's going to be potentially placed on this acreage. And so we're using a study from 2000, and then I know that there is a development that has been delayed for more than a year in my district due to requirements and studies. And so that's very frustrating because, I've been attending multiple meetings with this developer to try to get this project moving, and we have been unsuccessful. It's study after study after study, yet it seems like, we're pushing a plan through and we don't really know the feasibility of it. And so that's my concern.
And the approval of this is not, doesn't take into consideration the capacity of wastewater or things like that, right? It's just identifying it on the map.
It's identifying the rezones. And many of these sites, honestly, are already, there would be much more, I think, concern if these sites were single-family residential, because the impact of higher density residential is much more. These are sites that are being rezoned from what could be heavy industrial. to be honest, because our business park allows for having industrial uses. And so those tend to be the highest impact, the highest users, depending on the actual use. So in essence, what our current, I can't speak for Justin, but I believe that some of these properties that are being rezoned will actually be less of a draw on the sewer and water than say what could be there now. Not every site, but and then of course there's the concerns about the infrastructure when it comes to our streets. We'd have to evaluate that as well. But I did notice that a lot of these properties are being rezoned from the higher use potential to the high density residential which would be a less of an impact to those sites specifically.
So, but for the purposes of approving, getting a housing element through HCD, we just have to identify and rezone it. So it's.
Yes, so it's ready. It's ready.
Okay.
Mhm. And to be honest, there are a couple of these sites that we've already had affordable housing developers come and talk with us about supporting veterans or families who need, workforce development, workforce housing. So it's the sites are already of interest to developers like that.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay, comment and a question. So basically, this is a paper exercise forced upon us by the state of California. Okay, so in the previous cycle, arena goal was 1,760 units. It's now 3,017, so about double what it was last time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we don't have developers coming here to build high-density residential anyway. So I'm just frustrated by the whole thing, that we have to do this.
Well, like I said, I have had a conversation with some developers that are interested, but typically, the Central Valley has been more, and this might be why the state is pushing it, we're more developing the single family subdivision, which isn't as affordable. So that's their response. I don't know what to say because I wasn't here.
There's no answer for it.
Yeah, I wasn't here when we chose the sites, so.
I'm trying to
yeah.
make an excuse for the governor.
Yeah, I know.
So I did have a question for the legal counsel here. Can you address, there's been some questions about that we're pushing this through, that we're not meeting required public process for notification and public outreach, et cetera.
Yes. Yeah, I could just speak to what state law says. It requires local governments to make a diligent effort to achieve public participation. It's not specific in terms of what that means. I think that the record shows that the city has done a lot of outreach efforts since 2023. Could it be more? Could it be slower? Could it be different? Absolutely. But in terms of just what the law, I'm not here to opine on what, maybe is the best way to do outreach, but I can just tell you that the law says you have to make a diligent effort. I think there's an administrative record that shows that. And then all of our drafts of our housing element have to be online, which they have been. And that it is available for public comment, the initial draft, which I know we complied with that, as well as notices to the property owners through for the rezones, especially. So in terms of the last assessor's role, but beyond that, obviously, I'm not going to say whether we could or should or do more or different. I can just tell you that we did comply with state law.
Okay, and as much as, when I'm done. Okay. I lost my train of thought. So anyway, we've talked about this before, that if these properties, general plan, we got to get this done so the general plan update can be approved.
They're not, one can be done with the other. We don't have to get it done for the general plan to be.
But when we get the general plan update approved, there would be more land being annexed into the city.
Yes.
Probably. And could some of this land be rezoned back to its original zoning should the property owner decide that's what they would like to do?
Yes, that is possible. That some of the properties, some of the landowners I've talked to have properties that would be interested in, coming into the city. And those densities would match up to the densities that are being assigned. So we could utilize some of those sites if the time period matches, if it's within the next 5 years or so. We could utilize those, rezone the sites back to what they are now, and use those annexed units for our rezones. Yeah. So the answer is yes, we could do that. It's called no net loss. We can switch.
Okay, so going back to Frank's analysis of the situation, we are meeting the law, but I do agree with those that are saying that we should have had more public outreach, especially in regards to the specific rezoning of certain properties here. Unfortunately, thank you to the state, we are with our backs against the wall. If we do not approve this at this meeting, what is the consequences of that?
I will leave that to legal counsel to answer.
Well, I think it's been pretty well documented that the state has sued several cities in California who aren't going to be achieving housing element compliance certification by August. So it's very possible we could join that list if, I can never predict what the state will do, but it's very plausible, if not probable, that we would join that list. So housing element compliance is important. We have had conversations with HCD that have indicated to us this needs to be done by August 31st.
And I have had HCD for our last consideration with the Planning Commission on Thursday morning at 8:03, they were asking me what was the result. So the enforcement arm of HCD is in touch with me and is asking these questions. So they're watching.
Okay, thank you. Felisa?
Johnny, you talked about funding, and I would like for you to explain to everyone and me, what kind of funding have we missed out on and how much are we talking about?
I was hoping to get that information for you in numbers, but generally speaking, it's housing related grants. So we do have relationships with housing, we have a consulting firm that helps us secure housing related grants for home ownership or rehab, those types of uses, programs where we have had in the past that we're trying to create for the future. And we have missed out on some opportunities for funding those programs because they come through the state of California, and they do require that we have a compliant housing element to be able to have those types of funds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council comments, questions? Okay. All right, so the public hearing is open. Is there any public comment on this item? Let's come forward to the podium there. Good evening.
Good evening, council. My name is John Marshall. I live in the America West development, which is located on the south side of Bell Lane, west of AMPM. And out of your 20 rezones, 17 are designated R31s, with 11 of them occurring within a half mile of that AMPM. So that essentially would take the whole west side and south side of Bell there and redesignate it to this R31. And I was trying to follow along with your community development lady. She says that there's 2,956. Now I'm not good at math, so don't hold me to it if it's wrong. But 11 of those 17 R31s are on that Bell Lane, which is about 64%. So if you need 2,956 units, that's about 1,900 units that could potentially be developed there on Bell Lane and Freedom Lane. My concerns are the traffic impact in that area. If there's been any studies, because there's about 5 troublesome intersections in Atwater, and they all seem to pertain to that south side, being S&P and Commerce, Bell and Applegate, Sycamore and Applegate, Atwater Boulevard, and Winton Way. So I was just wondering, just listening to what was taking place between you folks, it seems that this is kind of a rush deal put together and we just kind of went through real quick, seeing what areas will meet the intent for today. It sounds like you've had since 2022 to get the ball rolling on this, and for whatever reasons, the ball kind of got dropped, and here we are. And I do understand that there's a great deal of pressure on you from the state of California. I would just like to see that there be a more even distribution of that high density housing across the city and not just chucked in one area of the city.
All right, thank you. We don't have a debate about this, but they're writing these questions down, and when we get to the end of this item, I'll ask them to address those questions that come up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Adam?
Mayor, council staff, good evening. Adam Connor, Atwater resident, future District 4 council member. I just wanted to, I guess, make a statement, right? I build affordable housing. I've got 116 units of affordable housing under construction in Merced County presently. And I think everyone should take a look at the other municipalities within Merced County, Los Banos, Merced, that have all done this same rezoning to get to a compliant housing element. The vast preponderance, if not all of these properties, will not be feasible for affordable housing in our lifetime. Either they're not competitive for tax credits, they don't have enough density to make a viable project. If you look at the property behind the bowling alley, we've been trying to do an affordable housing development there for 6 years. The reason there aren't other affordable housing developments already happening, even though people have expressed interest, is because they're not feasible and they're not competitive for the dollars at the state level. So again, almost all these properties will not be developed into future high density affordable housing. So I don't think it's as scary as maybe people think it is. We're not going to have 1,000 units of high density affordable housing built in Atwater over even the next 20 or 30 years. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Well, good evening, Mayor Nelson and members of the council. My name is Robert Olzak. I live at 5540 Michelle Court in Atwater, and I own property at 2092 Peace Court. It's an office building there, and it's within the sphere of influence of this rezoning. I received a number of these notices from the city just this last week. And as you can see, this is the map that was supplied in the notice. And I looked at it carefully, and it was very difficult. My property is down in this area here, but it was very difficult to determine exactly where my property was located. So I did go on your website, enlarged it. I still could not see exactly how it would influence my property. So today I was able to go down and talk to Miss Johnny Land. And by the way, thank you very much. She was very helpful and actually added a lot of information to what I already knew. So went down there and spent about an hour with her, and determined that that area right there is all zoned business park, and I believe that's what it has been zoned for a number of years. One of the reasons that I bought the office there was because it was already built. I just had to finish it up and move my business in there back in 2013. In fact, just recently I underwent a improvement project of my own, put about $50,000 worth of landscaping, repainting, stonework on the exterior of the building. Because I lived in Atwater all my life, and I have a lot of pride of ownership of living here. And I want to thank Johnny for taking the time to spend with me this afternoon. And also, actually wanted to thank the council for making my argument a little bit easier, because Ms. Rochester and Mayor Nelson, you brought up some good points, and these gentlemen did too. It seems like this has been going on for about 4 years now, and it kind of came down to the wire, and now all of a sudden you have to identify these things from the state of California, and you will possibly get fined or taken into court. I understand some other communities in the area have. I don't blame you for not wanting to do that. However, the zoning there, at least in my area, what we've got there right now are 2 businesses, offices, a veterinarian clinic. I know there has been interest in a lot of that, some of that property over the years. Unfortunately, nothing has transpired. You've got retail, AM, PM. You've got gas stations, McDonald's, a number of other restaurants in that area. I can't see where a multifamily residential high impact is going to help that area at all. First thing it's going to do as soon as it.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that sound, we have a new buzzer now. You've gone over your 3 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can I have another 3? Well, anyway, I'll make it short. Obviously, if it's zoned a different zoning, the value of my building and all the other buildings around there are going to drop significantly. So it's something that I think that you should consider. I'm sorry that the city might get sued, but by the state. However, sounds like you've had a number of years to take care of this issue, but it hasn't happened yet. So again, thank you for your consideration. I hope you table this to a later date with additional information to be gathered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Alice Gilbertson, and I live at 2210 Bell Drive. I became aware of this last week, just looking for something else on the city website, and saw where there was a special planning commission meeting, and went to look to see what was the topic. And that's when I learned that there would be rezoning in my neighborhood. That was the first that I knew of it. I guess I don't fit the sphere to be notified as a property owner. I might be outside of the 300 feet. The concern that I have, a couple things there. Of course, I'm concerned anytime the zoning, basically the marketing and just the area is going to change around where I live and own property. But I was really concerned about the notification of the planning meeting. And I want to just read from the staff report for the components of the housing element about public participation. As part of the housing element, cities must make a diligent effort to engage all economic segments of the community. This goes beyond routine public notices and requires proactive outreach to encourage meaningful public input. What is happening here is you're waiving a public hearing. This should have been the first reading. And that would have given people the opportunity for more people to be notified of the change that you're doing to 117 acres in the city. I will tell you that 24 of those acres are out on Bell Drive. Okay, so that's a significant portion of that project. By doing a reading tonight, then folks would have been notified, or at least had that better opportunity to come back to take a better interest and see what's happening. I realize the constraints, and I know it's real important to get it done to alleviate some other issues, but perhaps in even that consideration, a commitment from this council to come back and revisit what the change of zoning was with more participation and with more interest and dedication to what I would call getting it right, instead of just filling a quota and getting the state off our backs. That would be my wish. Okay, thanks.
Anybody else?
So today I'm on the computer going blind looking at this housing element, but I brought up a map. I believe it was in figure 3. It's color coded. And first thing that jumps out to me is that Ferrari Ranch has what appears to be 2 large parcels cut out of Ferrari Ranch. Ferrari Ranch, when I personally signed the annexation paperwork for that, was supposed to be for commercial development. There's been nothing. And lately, I don't understand why that's been, overlooked for the years that it has. Merced is about to get a warehouse distribution center, and let's not kid ourselves. That's Amazon, and it's going to produce, who knows, maybe 1,000 jobs down there. Prairie Ranch would have been ideal for that. Right on the freeway, it would have been great. Hotels, we've heard all about hotels. That would have been another place that would have been good for it. Truck stop, that would have been another place for it. It just goes on and on. As the gentleman said rightly, right up by the AMPM, those two parcels, large parcels across from Buhack Colony, when I first took office, they were supposed to be also for commercial development. And now they're going to be for housing instead. He brings up a very good point about traffic out there. We've already seen people literally lose their lives out there on Juniper and surrounding areas out there because of the traffic flow. And now we're talking about more. Where the Holiday Inn Express was supposed to go, out towards Bell. Yeah, when are we going to turn over shovels of dirt on that? But the thing of it is that going to get stifled because of that? We're not, when we talk about, and Johnny mentioned smart growth. Well, smart growth doesn't just mean houses. Smart growth also includes industrial, manufacturing, all of those things that this city absolutely needs and hasn't gotten. With 3,017 units coming into the city here, where's the dirt going to be that we can build on? Are we going to have to wait another 20 years for annexations and everything else? In the meantime, we're going to need more cops, more fire, more public works, more everything to support the housing. And it isn't in any of this plan. It's just, here's where we're going to, use property to build high density housing or medium or whatever, it's going to be. And the problem is that services of every kind are not going to be there with it. And the housing is not, the property tax or something like that will never support those services, ever. You guys know it. It's common to know that sort of thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Sean Connor, Drakely, District 3. Greg Thompson really was sleeping on the job on this one, right? And Johnny Land was handed a dumpster fire. And as my brother more eloquently put, right, none of this is actually ever going to be built. And this is a check in the box. And I just want to put some of the concerns of the citizens of the city to rest, that we can't even build houses in the city of Atwater. We're not going to build high density because it costs more money. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Just wanted to say something because I'm 23 years old, and I seek to have a future here in Atwater. I've grown here all my life, and I'd like to just see some more positivity and to see, we're talking about ifs and maybes, if it will get done or won't get done. Well, how do we show accountability and how do we show atonement to citizens? Because you want our input, but if you don't get their input, that's fine. I know a rush job doesn't help anyone, and I completely understand that. But how do you show respect after that as well? Because I want to live here in Atwater. My family is able to afford a house, but the market is just that tough. And I'm hearing from two brothers right now that I probably won't ever be able to get a house here. And I don't want that future for myself, and I don't want that future for people that are similar age as me and that have similar ambitions and pride in their hometown. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so nobody else come forward. I'm going to close the public hearing on this. Okay, so there's been a few questions that have come up to this during this. Johnny, you want to address those?
Which one specifically?
Okay, so Mr. Marshall mentioned about traffic and all that whatnot. It's my understanding that the rezoning doesn't address any of that. That all happens when the development application is submitted.
Correct. And in this case, if the development, we would still look at traffic and impacts. That's part of our routing. Our engineers would look at that. So it would be an objective standard, whatever the city standards are for providing, the support for impacts. Let's say it's, vehicle trips. And maybe vehicle trips trigger a light, and then we would have to work with a developer to look at how we were going to address that. If it's 20% affordable housing, then there are other things that we would need to do, and we probably would have to, find funding to support those things, because the state does require us to support affordable housing in a different way than market rate housing. However, we still have to look at the impacts. This rezoning effort is not by itself something that we would look at impacts. Now, this being done now can be folded into the general plan effort, which then would evaluate our circulation, our impacts. We do have an environmental impact report that will attach to that general plan update that will look at all of these land uses and determine what is needed. The other thing that the city is doing, we have an effort for sewer plan, a master plan, water master plan. All of these things will be done concurrently, actually, so that by the end of next year, hopefully with the general plan update, our housing element, which again will be, all of these analyses will happen within the general plan update. We will know what is needed and how these impacts will affect. And if quite honestly, if I find that there's a need to maybe make a shift because of the impacts, because of the analysis, I'm not opposed to looking at what's right and trying to find a different site that is more suitable for this type of development.
All right. So a comment was, thank you for that. There was a comment about loss in value. But if the land is already developed with an office or whatever, that property is not getting rezoned and devalued. It's going to have its original or its current zoning.
Correct. It'll all be based on comps. I'm not a real estate professional, so I can't speak to specific value. However, this effort, these are vacant lots, so.
So we're talking about vacant lots, not already developed.
Absolutely. That's when these were chosen, it's because they were vacant and they were within the city of Atwater jurisdiction. So we could control, they weren't on the outside, they weren't in the sphere of influence. We can control the potential of these being built. It kind of minimizes all of those steps that would have to be taken to develop these lots.
Okay, thank you for that. And then comment was made about putting residential development in the Ferrari Ranch project, contrary to what the original zoning was for there.
Yes, I can speak to that. That actually happened while I was here, so I can actually talk about that. We had apparently originally determined a site that would satisfy some of our unit requirements, but it was outside the city, in the sphere of influence, but outside the city limits. HCD challenged us and wanted us to know when that would be brought into the city and when it truly could be done within the time period that our housing element window. And because there are issues up there with sewer and water's not such a problem, but there were issues with sewer, we couldn't, in all honesty, be able to say, oh yeah, this will be coming into the city and developed in 5 years. So we spoke with the Ferrari Ranch owners. They had actually approached us and were interested in shifting, because they did have some people who are interested in the site. And so we were able to connect some medium density residential, low density residential on either side of the property, but we did maintain and save like 100 acres for commercial commercial use because it is quite valuable for this community for that purpose. So
Well, what about the residential portion of that?
the residential portion being rezoned, I believe there's interest in developing that fairly quickly. So that's something that there is somebody interested in.
And I think there's other examples around the valley where shopping centers have been developed concurrently with residential as part of that development.
In this situation, we have looked at blocking off the sites for the specific residential. I suspect if we were able to, if a proposal came to me and they were looking at mixed use, as long as in that area we could still maintain those units, I wouldn't be opposed to looking at doing that. So if there's a mixed use opportunity that showed itself for that site versus the separated, we call it like sort of standard zoning of the separated zoning. I mean, I'd be open to rezone because again, it would allow for the zero net loss. We would be providing the units, even if those units might be, on the lot next door as a mixed use opportunity. So.
Okay. That's all I had. If council have any questions? Thank you.
I just have more of a comment, and so before we vote, and this is not my district, but I have a lot of deep concerns about just the real feasibility of this for the future, and so my concern is that is exactly what this young man said, is that I want families to be able to afford to come to Atwater. And so the other concern that I have are the two comments that were made that this is never going to happen. So, I mean, is it responsible of us to develop a plan that we in our hearts know may not be feasible? And that's what troubles me about this. And so I just want to say that out loud.
John?
I agree that troubles me too, but what also troubles me more than that is the state of California and their decision to make this more like San Francisco and San Jose, and they want the city of Atwater to be more like them, and we're not. We're agriculture based. Yes, we need housing for those people who work and do hard work out in the field and run their tractors and do all these hard jobs. And it annoys the crap out of me that they want to make us do this and they pin us against the law to do this. So.
Yeah. Yep. And Robbie, I do appreciate your comments about needing more positivity. You're definitely right about that. Thank you. All righty, so there's no more council questions. We're at the making a motion stage.
Let's have choices here. Right?
One motion could be just to approve the recommended actions. Approve the actions as recommended by staff. That could be the motion.
Okay, I'll make that motion then.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Kale, second by Embreeze. Kale?
Yes.
Raymond?
Unfortunately, yes.
Embreeze?
Yes.
Rochester?
No.
Nelson?
Not happy about it, but yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay, so that takes care of that item. We're done with that. You're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. Yeah, excuse me. All right, so we're on to reports and presentations from staff. Item 7 is consideration and adoption of the residential traffic calming policy. Interim City Manager Martin will be making a presentation on that, and you may go forward on that.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council directed staff to develop a residential traffic calming policy to provide the residents with a clear process for addressing neighborhood traffic and safety concerns, and to establish a consistent framework for staff evaluation. Following City Council review on July 13th, public comments were received during the meeting regarding traffic safety, neighborhood participation, request eligibility, review timelines, school zones, funding, the appeal process, and transparency. Staff reviewed the comments and incorporated the appropriate clarifications, and while maintaining an engineering-based process that allows for consideration for site-specific conditions, safety concerns, available resources, and the needs of the vulnerable roadway users. If adopted, the policy will provide a consistent process for evaluating residential traffic concerns and prioritizing appropriate traffic calming measures based on engineering analysis, available funding and staffing, and other resources provided by the City of Atwater. With that, we have Jose with JLB Traffic Engineering Services on our Zoom, and we also have staff here to answer any questions.
All right, does council have any questions? Already in the comments. Okay. Already. Then we'll move on to Brian. Did you have any comments on the traffic calming policy? What was that? Oh, not this time. So then we're going to go to public comment. Anybody who wishes to speak on this item, please come to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, members of our community. My name is Christopher. I am Christopher Tejeda Jr.'s father. First, I sincerely want to thank the city for hearing us and for incorporating several of the concerns and recommendations that have been brought forward throughout this process. That matters to me because it shows this process has not simply been about being heard, it has been about being listened to. I also want to sincerely thank you for placing my son's name on the cover of the Christopher Tejeda Jr. Residential Traffic Calming Policy. My family is deeply grateful for that honor. I do respectfully ask for one additional consideration. Please add a dedication page immediately after the cover, explaining who Christopher was, why this policy carries his name, and why it was created. Years from now, someone should now open this policy and simply see Christopher's name. They should understand the life, the purpose, the responsibility behind that name. My wife will propose language for that page to make this request as easy as possible for the city to consider. I also respectfully request that his name be permanently incorporated into the policy itself, with language along the lines of, this policy shall be known as the Christopher Tejeda Jr. Residential Traffic Calming Policy, in permanent recognition of Christopher Tejeda Jr. and the community. Traffic safety efforts arising from his death, any future amendment, revision, or successor policy addressing the city's residential traffic calming program shall retain this dedication and Christopher Jr.'s name. Administrations change. Councils change, policies are revised. So the reason this work began should not disappear with time. Additionally, I asked for an update regarding the memorial safety signage we had previously requested. My proposed recommendation is street sign riders above the existing Bridgewater street signs. If I'm not mistaken, there's only 2. Christopher Tejeda Jr. Safety Corridor. Aside from this request, school starts this week, and rather than standing here tonight asking that what are we going to do about Bridgewater, I'm taking the next step myself, as I said I would. I have completed the formal traffic calming request using the process contained in this policy. I am formally requesting an engineering evaluation of an all-way stop at Bridgewater Street and Oriole Way. along with speed humps between Woodside Lane and Oriole Way, and appropriate pedestrian safety improvements. If approved, city manager and traffic engineer have both been provided copies of that request by email, and a copy has also been provided to the city clerk. I am not asking anyone to bypass engineering or predetermine the outcome. I'm asking the city to use the policy we are considering to collect the data, conduct the engineering analysis, tell this community what the safest resolution is, and then let's implement it. If funding is the obstacle, tell us what it costs. Tell us what funding is available. And if necessary, tell me what I need to do to help raise this money. Thank you for honoring Christopher. Thank you for listening to our community. And most importantly, thank you for helping turn my son's name into something that can protect every child and every family in Atwater. Thank you.
Okay, I will allow that for Christopher, Mr. Tate's thing, but try to keep that at a minimum here. Yes, ma'am.
The next speaker, hi.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good evening. My name is Marina. I'm Christopher's mom. And like my husband said, I'm just going to read what we would hopefully like to incorporate into the policy. This is the dedication and purpose page. This policy is respectfully dedicated to the memory of Christopher Tejeda Jr., a 10-year-old Atwater child whose life was tragically lost in a traffic collision on April 30th, 2026. Christopher's loss became a call to action for his family, neighbors, and community to pursue meaningful, lasting improvements to traffic safety throughout the city of Atwater. Christopher was far more than the circumstances of his passing. He was a son, brother, friend, student, teammate, and a child full of energy, kindness, humor, and heart. He loved football, running, anime, spending time with his family and friends, and being part of the community around him. He had a way of bringing people together and leaving an impression on those who knew him. The purpose of placing Christopher's name on this policy is not simply to memorialize one tragedy. It is to ensure that the lessons learned from his loss are carried forward through action. The Christopher Tejeda Jr. residential traffic calming policy is intended to provide a clear, consistent, and engineering-based process for identifying and addressing speeding, unsafe pedestrian conditions, sight distance concerns, cut-through traffic, and other roadway risks within Atwater's neighborhoods. Through this policy, the city affirms that traffic safety is a shared responsibility and that children, pedestrians, bicyclists, older adults, persons with disabilities, and all other road users deserve streets designed and managed with safety in mind. The policy should serve not only as a response to community concerns, but as a framework for preventing future serious injuries and fatalities wherever reasonably possible. Christopher's name on this policy should therefore represent more than remembrance. It should represent a continuing commitment to listen to residents, to use sound engineering and data to act on risks, and to continually improve the streets where Atwater's children live, walk, ride, learn, and play. Christopher's life mattered. Every child in Atwater matters. May his memory inspire continued action to make Atwater safer for every child, every family, and every resident. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else want to speak about this? Okay, then I am going to close public comment. Council questions, comments?
I have more of a question for the city manager. In order for us to accomplish what Mr. Tejeda is asking, wouldn't we need to adopt a resolution for that in order for the policy to remain the same, so that there's something that the council has created that would maintain that name?
There's no way to, a resolution or even an ordinance you cannot bind future councils. If we were a charter city, you could perhaps put something in the charter that the voters were to vote on, and then the voters would have to repeal that, but there's very little this council can do to bind future councils, which is intentional, a form of obviously democracy, local level and the federal level, is you want the law or the policies to change. You could put a statement in there that says it's the intent that this shall not change or should not change, but you can't prevent that from changing. There's no legal mechanism to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Could you require a 2/3 vote for the amendment?
No.
Brian, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Not particularly, as far as like they're requesting the bio, is that something that's done for legal?
I mean, legally, I suppose you could do it. There's no, I've never seen it done, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be.
We could add a dedication page to the policy or something. Just make that part of the motion, whoever makes the motion. And as far as the Bridgewater sign addition, that would have to, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's a great idea. I don't know that we can put it into this resolution, but we can definitely talk about it with staff to do that. And same way with the four-way stop and all that kind of stuff. If, assuming this is actually adopted here in a few minutes, you already have your request done. We can start working on that tomorrow, I suppose. So. Who wants to make a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the Christopher Tejeda Jr. residential traffic calming policy with the dedication page added.
Second. And can I just get clarification? Is it the dedication page that was read, or do you want to approve a dedication page in concept and have the family work with staff to finalize the verbiage? Just because I don't think anyone's really seen it, and we all heard it just for the first time.
I would go latter. That'd probably be a good idea. Okay, we have a motion.
Okay, motion by Raymond, second by Ambrose. Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Yay. Congratulations. We hope this it's just but a small thing for your family. The loss of your son was horrendous. So we're hoping that this will make some amends for that. And we've been talking about traffic policy for a while now. But unfortunately, this is what made it happen. Okay, so turn that in tomorrow. You can turn it into, turn in the city.
It's already, I turned it in prior to the
perfect.
council meeting started.
Great, okay.
And then also I sent an email.
They'll work on it starting tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, you're welcome to stay. You don't have to. But you're welcome. Excuse me. You can't be up. You can't go to the meeting. Go to the meeting, Robbie. Come on. I got your email. That's poor form, but. Okay, so our next report, presentation from staff is item 8, a review and discussion of homelessness response initiatives. There has been a lot of discussion on Facebook, sorry, I'm old, it's Facebook, social media, about the homeless and what can be done about it. So I asked that the police department provide us with information on what they have already done, what they're currently doing, and what the plans are for the future. I realize a lot of this is outside our control, thanks to, again, the governor and his waste of money on homeless issues. So, Janelle, I'll let you lead off on this.
Thank you, Mayor. This item provides an overview of the city's approach to addressing our homelessness, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to the chief and lieutenant to provide an update on their response and how they're helping through the city and our resources, but also the resources throughout Merced County and the different services that are being provided through Merced County and the city of Atwater. So I thank them for the items that they're providing.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. We'll kind of highlight what we've been doing and what we intend to continue to do, and then I'll kind of add to that a little bit. From a public safety response, we respond to calls for service involving criminal activity, disturbances, trespassing, welfare checks, and other public safety concerns. We prioritize the safety of both the community and individuals experiencing homelessness. As far as enforcement within legal authority, we enforce state laws and municipal codes when violations occur, regardless of a person's housing status. Officers cannot arrest or cite someone simply because they're homeless and must operate within federal, state, and local legal requirements. In regard to outreach and resource connection, we connect individuals with available services and coordinate with Merced County and community partners whenever appropriate, such as a point-in-time count information and housing that is available. We also encourage individuals to access shelter, behavioral health, substance use treatment, and other available resources. From community education collaboration, we work collaboratively with Public Works, Code Enforcement, Fire, Merced County, and community partners to address public safety and quality of life concerns. Residents can help by reporting concerns through the appropriate channels, supporting local service organizations, and learning more about the city's response. The city's website includes a homelessness frequently asked questions and a list of local resources under the Residents tab, providing information for both community members and individuals seeking assistance. Back in February, on February 23rd, we did about a 20-minute presentation on the homeless report for the year. If you weren't here or didn't see that and would like to watch that, it's at the 1 hour and 2 minute mark of the February 23rd meeting. Lieutenant Novetsky and our code enforcement manager, Dan Garcia, and then Sergeant Lee all did a presentation on their efforts regarding the homeless. Just real quickly, from this year alone, we've written, and this is just for illegal camping, we've written 93 citations and made 104 arrests. And that obviously doesn't include any other crimes that they're being arrested for. We've discussed, we got that data from our Peregrine software platform. Peregrine's really good at crime analysis, and it will give you hotspots of where the crime continues to occur. So Lieutenant Novetsky can talk a little bit about that, but he's going to work on incorporating in his quarterly reports some homeless information and maybe some slides that show some of that data that we are able to collect on Peregrine. Like that.
So with Peregrine, it gives us kind of a, I don't want to say predictive policing model, but it allows us to have our resources where they need to be. This has resulted in us having high visibility areas where the officers have done enforcement. We've made several warrant arrests in conjunction with some of these folks. We're not arresting them for homeless. While we're out there doing that, I'd like to commend Sergeant Lee and his team that go out there diligently. I mean, even before we get to work, they're out there doing enforcements, talking to the individuals in the camps, whether they're with the resources or if they do have to take enforcement action of doing the enforcement for the AMCs for camping or other type of violations. One of the things that we also are doing now is we're working with, I've reached out to one of the folks that's providing housing for Atwater, so that's been passed along. Even Roberto Vargas, who's one of our police officers who's very proactive with that, carries contact information to hand out to folks looking for housing. We're working with Linda Dash, who has been very supportive of the police department and our efforts to find housing for these individuals. So I've been working with her, kind of coordinating to try and not just have an enforcement piece, but more of a kind of a collaborative, not only housing, but service related, but also, hey, there's an accountability piece. If you violate the municipal code, we will enforce it and do that as part of our efforts to deal with the homeless issue in our city. By no means we're trying to vilify homelessness, but we are trying to enforce the laws that or codes that have been enacted. And so we are taking a proactive approach with that. So again, for our staff, I do want to say thank you. They're out there every day with code enforcement, helping them out. So it is making an impact. I know we do get folks that say, hey, this is over here. So here, we do appreciate the feedback of people letting us know where it's at. It does allow us to, if there's something that pops up, then we can address it. But our software that we currently use is very robust in that of kind of identifying even the trends of where these folks are, just like it would be any other platform that we use for the data that's in the system already. So I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
So one of the questions that I have is in regard to the shopping carts, because what I see repeatedly are transient individuals pushing shopping carts up and down the street and in the parking lots and everywhere else. I'm hoping that we're citing these individuals as per our ordinance, and I would like some information on how many citations we've issued and why are we not taking the carts away from them and not allowing them to continue to push the carts up and down Schaefer, Bellevue area, because it seems like if we're citing them as we should, as per the ordinance, then we shouldn't continue to allow them to violate the law because that cart doesn't belong to them. So that's one of my issues. The other issue is just, it seems that, and the frustration that I have in my particular district is that we have individuals who are setting up large encampments right on Bellevue. You couldn't miss it. And it's very frustrating that I have to call dispatch to report that because it's really difficult to miss. So those are a couple of my frustrations with the transient population most recently.
So to address the shopping carts, we do issue citations. I can't give you the frequency right now. I have the numbers in front of me. What do? We do confiscate them if there's a owner available for them. We work with Public Works. I know Sergeant Lee does that regularly for his team and other officers. And it's a storage issue. Sometimes we end up with shopping carts in the back of our PD. It's one of those things, and we do the best we can with what we have resource-wise because we can't put a shopping cart in the back of a police car. So sometimes we have to have the code enforcement trucks available or whatever the case may be. I can't speak to every case why we don't take the shopping cart or cite for it, but there is an effort to make an effort to abate some of those. But we do it as, it could be time related. The time that we're spending on patrol doing quality of life is the time we're not working traffic or we're not handling a call for service that's waiting for to be answered. So a lot of it is time consuming also. Basically with our staffing, we're working patrol and we just added into the traffic enforcement. So that's taking an officer off the street. So I know they try and do as best they can with getting back into service. So because we don't have a dedicated HART team that just deals with the enforcement piece, these are patrol officers that are handling calls for service and everything else throughout their day. So I don't have those numbers of what we have cited, but I know the officers have cited for that or have taken it out to the city yard and a lot of it is getting these businesses to get their shopping carts back too. And so it's a lot of, workforce that, this is something that we've utilized the CSO and so, it's a limited number of folks doing this mission. It's not an excuse, but it's just part of the job since we don't have a dedicated team just focusing on that. And then to answer your question on the camps, the officers are, if they see the camp, they're enforcing it along with everything else they're doing. And to speak to our numbers, our enforcement is exponentially increased from 2025 to 2026. We are, for our staffing levels and what we're doing on top of everything else we're doing, because we are a busy city, our numbers, if I was to show you the Peregrine numbers of kind of the crime analysis or incident analysis, it's considerably higher I'm actually going to commend my people. I was looking at some of the numbers today and I was like, wow, I knew they were doing the job, but they are doing a great job at this because, our hands are tied on some of these things and we're doing a great job.
I thought that the street crime unit that you developed was for partially to address the transient population. There was a member to the street crime unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the street crimes unit, they do address that. They also address shootings, gang violence. We've had them enforce traffic as we've had issues going on. So they are Swiss Army knife. Yeah, that's one of their jobs. But again, they kind of go where they've done the vendors. They're out there doing the unpermitted vendors. So street crimes is a busier unit. They've arrested a lot of folks with felony warrants that would normally be on the street. They're out doing that also. So they're kind of a Swiss Army knife. They're not just dedicated to like a heart team. They're dedicated to going out and getting bad guys off the street is their priority, along with gang suppression.
Yeah, sure. I think just the sheer number of what I mentioned, 104 arrests and 93 cites for camping, is a great example of the fact that these are the same people over and over and over. We don't have 197 homeless people here in town that we've taken out. So we arrest them, we take them, they get cited out, they're back on the street later that day. So it's a never-ending cycle, but we will continue to fight that fight because that's what we do. And I would like to commend the officers as well. I come in at 7 in the morning, and a lot of times when I get here, they've already got somebody in custody that they went out and found in a camp. So they're breaking their briefing and they're going right out, and that's the first thing they're trying to do in the morning. So they're definitely doing what they can. It's just a losing battle, unfortunately.
I know it used to be that you hook them up and you take them just to get them out of the city to the jail, but they're back in town before you are.
Well, that's a whole other issue of getting somebody booked into the jail. I commend the sheriff's office. They're doing what they can, but they are, we take people to jail and they're out pretty quickly, or they're not medically cleared. A lot of that issue is sometimes these folks that we do take to jail that are experiencing unhoused issues are have medical issues where they can't be booked into the jail. So it's just one of those things where we have developed a proactive approach. I've had people approach us all the time, say, wow, you guys are really out there doing a great job of that. And it's a testament to our staff dealing with this, because it's not the glamorous part of the job, but it's the important part of the job too, for quality of life. Because as you sign up for a cop, you're out chasing bad guys and whatnot, and then they're out now doing quality of life. So again, commending to our staff.
You guys have any questions? Okay, so Lieutenant, it's my understanding that you met with the DA recently.
Yes, I did.
What was the upshot of that meeting?
So the upshot of that meeting is I'm very appreciative of Nicole Severa. She has normally the AMC codes are enforced generally by the city attorney's office. The DA's office is doing this quote unquote favor by prosecuting those cases. And so she has taken it on. Their office is extremely taxed with their own issue. And so we have seen a result of that. We've actually arrested people on warrants from an AMC violation. So we know they're filing these cases. We know they're helping us in that sense. And she is dedicated to help us with our efforts, identifying what we call frequent flyers, or people, repeat offenders. So we have been working with their office, and it's just, we provide them with the cases, they look at them and go from there prosecuting. So the DA has taken a proactive approach, so I'm very appreciative.
That's very good to hear. As far as business owners, I know there's some that haven't done no trespass letters. How are you dealing with that?
So how we're dealing with the no trespassers, it's two schools of thought. So if somebody's there trespassing and they're not supposed to be there, they don't need that common myth is they have to have a trespass. But if you have an owner agent and that person's been asked to leave time and time again, they're just refusing to leave, they can do a citizen's arrest right there, and the officer can initiate a citizen's arrest for the trespassing. If they have a trespass letter not on file, that's something that code enforcement has been working with, to meet with the owners. They might say, hey, there's nothing on file. We actually have those trespass files within our system. So If it expires or it changes ownership of that nature, we come across that. There's generally a follow-up through the code enforcement division.
Okay, and to wrap up, what can residents do other than calling dispatch, which I have some issues sometimes. Dispatch doesn't seem like they take things as seriously as the person calling thinks they are, myself included. But what other mechanisms can people do to help you guys get this taken care of?
A lot of it is, we do have the formats of TextMyGov and different avenues of that sense. If it's not an immediate, let's say it is like a cleanup or something, quality of life, we have the TextMyGov. I can't stress that enough. Those are some of the avenues. But again, calling dispatch, it might not be a priority, but, we will answer. If we have a situation where there's a priority 1 incident going on, I just ask that the public understand sometimes there's only one person in there. And if there's a priority 1 with multiple officers working on the radio and so on and so forth, you saw it yourself, Mayor, at 4th of July, how overwhelming it can become. So I just ask people to be patient. If somehow there's a disconnection or they have to call you back or whatever the case may be, it's not for lack of caring, it's for lack of, or I shouldn't say lack, it's just, our center can become very busy. Those folks in there do an extreme, great job of managing the calls coming in. So not every call is going to come in as a quote unquote priority, but it's not something we don't take, like we just don't care. It's just a matter of, we got several phone calls ringing or somebody's on the other line saying somebody's just been shot. That the person calling in might not know the other lines on somebody else is saying, hey, we're having a heart attack, because the common, some of the phone calls that do come in are life emergencies. So somebody might be calling in saying, hey, there's a medical emergency where we're trying to transfer somebody, or, those type of priorities. So I just would, if you're calling in for a quality of life issue that might not necessarily require an officer to respond right then and there, is just kind of stay patient and call back if you're placed on hold or.
Well, exactly. I've learned that if they don't answer in three or four rings, hang up and call back some other time because they're obviously busy.
Right.
So, okay. Now, all this information that you provided us tonight, is there any way you can push that out on social media? Here's what you can do.
Yeah, we have it on the website for frequently, but I have no problem doing a summary of TextMyGov or some of these avenues. And one of the things that I do want to wrap up on, Mayor, is, and to all the city council is, and I touched on it a little bit, is we don't want to vilify this, because some of these folks are in these situations because they have to be. And that's where if somebody that's watching tonight that might be unhoused, that's just happened to watch this, is there are services out there. There's folks like Linda Dash that have worked really hard to place folks. So there is services. We can't force people to take services, but I don't want to become a city that looks at homelessness like it's vilify folks that, could be in these situations just because, I want to be a city of, that people can, live just their life and, within the law, but, not feel like, wow, Atwater just hates people. I don't want to come across like that.
That's good. Thank you. Any further questions up here? Okay, so now I'm going to open it to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody in the public want to speak? Linda, you are the perfect person to speak on this issue.
Linda Dash, Atwater. 2019, I made an offer to the then Chief Salvador that we were here to help clear up the homeless situation in the city of Atwater. And you know what he told me? It's not on my priority list, Linda. And he laughed. I said, well, damn better be, because I live here. You don't have to live here, but I do. I've been trying to get the attention of the Atwater Police Department for several years now that we're here to help them clean up the housing situation. Only recently maybe they started to pay a little bit of attention, but I was even told by a member of Merced Police Department that if they needed some assistance, give them a call, because they know you're shorthanded. we were offered that assistance many years ago. And we were told, you know, go get him. Here's the key to the city. This is what Salvador told us. But you know, you mentioned a pit. You know what the pit count is? Point in time. You get up about 4:30 in the morning and you get out and you drive all over the city and you count the homeless that are housed or unhoused. And those that are housed are those that might be in shelters or possibly in SLEs. And I do know that you have 3 homes in this town now that this council approved. Have you ever asked to see their population? How many's in there? I know. And I know that I called a week and a half ago because there was a couple that called me for some help. It was pretty hot and they were hungry, and also the gentleman had fluid retention in both legs. And I called the agency. The agency said, yeah, we do have a bed, we have a room, because a lot of these homes are 4 and 5 bedrooms. And the agency member went out there, and instead of taking him to the house, he dropped off 2 sandwiches and left. Well, I was not happy. So I've been in communication with this couple again, and just today, they were put into one of your houses in Atwater. That's for you to find out where they are. But I know. But these are things that I think the police department has every right in the world to check with those 3 homes, SLEs, sober living, and check to see the population. I could go, I'd go with you, no problem. The population, find out if there are other homeless, aged homeless people hanging around there. But there is a homeless problem still. Now, when we did the point in time count this year, your homeless doubled from last year. So you went from about 15 to 30 this year, plus 30 we could count. And so I'm sorry, but
I'll let you finish.
yeah, but the whole thing is, we would like to help you. We're not here to say, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. But there's a lot of agencies in this county that's willing to help Atwater. But all you have to do is call us, we'll work together and try to clean it up, because we see the same thing 5 corners every day. I mean, they just have everything spread out. No wonder people don't want to go to McDonald's or go here, go there, because you've got the lady walking around with her boobs hanging out. She has no top. Half the time she runs up and down the street with no clothes at all. That's reason to take her to jail. And so I'm sorry, but we'll help you. Take care.
Okay, just to clarify, in January of 2026, the point in time count for Atwater was 31. And also I want to clarify that the homes that Linda referred to are not city homes. They're owned by the rescue mission. They don't belong to the city. So, okay, Jim, you gonna wrap us up here?
Yeah. You know, the thing that I think about when I hear this homeless stuff going on is that, you know, it's gotten so politicized and it's gotten so out of hand that, you know, they don't call them homeless anymore. They're unhoused, you know, and anyway, the people that are watching from home, I hope they're listening close. There's no camping ordinance that I signed, 2015, 16, and that only applies to city property, the parks and that type of thing. It doesn't apply to private property. So let's be clear on that. One of the things that I don't understand and how it applies, but Measure B, if you look at the ordinance for Measure B, it says clearly in there what the money's supposed to be used for is equipment, personnel, and homeless. How does public safety money get used for homeless? I'll never know, but it sure isn't being applied, and it doesn't work even if you could. You already covered about the private property trespass. You got camps out here, and this goes to the jurisdiction. If you go down Atwater Boulevard, you go to catch 99 going north, right under the overpass over there is a homeless camp that stays there. And the thing that I always hear about, well, that's Caltrans over there. Well, wait a minute, you know, I don't care if it's Caltrans or not, it's our city that it looks like hell when it comes to any of that stuff. So, you know, when it comes to, you know, those type of places out there, something's got to be done to get past this jurisdictional excuse and start doing something about it. Health department. Now, you go to any of these encampments, these people are relieving themselves, folks, and they're doing it out there. They're not going to the local 7-Eleven or something. They're out there. Where's the health department in the county on this? Isn't this a health issue? Health and safety issue, you know, from that. So there's an environmental impact. The cost to the city is, I'm sure, huge. Bill went into a nice long dissertation about, you know, how, you know, the cops are doing it. You know, no one's, you know, putting up any kind of an argument about the police and what they're doing and this and that. We get it. But this homeless stuff, it's like fireworks. You know, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And people have it in their minds that nothing can be done. Or they post on social media how, why aren't the cops doing something? Well, the cops can't do anything about it. That's the facts. The cops cannot do anything about it. You can't force somebody. I went on ride-alongs where I've gone down and talked to these folks at homeless camps, and they don't want to go anywhere. They want to be right there. So, you know, let's be honest. This is one of those problems. It ain't going to go away. And like Linda says, the population of the homeless is going up, not down in the city.
All right, thank you. Actually, I kind of pushed back on that because I answered a question earlier, and it seems that our PIT numbers have gone up and down, but they've been pretty, overall, been pretty steady overall. Okay, so any other public comment? Keith?
After listening to the lieutenant, what he had to say, I think you asked the wrong question, the mayor. It's not what the citizens can do, it's what the council can do. What the council can do is utilize Measure B money to give to hire more officers. That's what Measure B, what was told to us, what Measure B was for personnel. City attorney said personnel and equipment is what he told Councilman Raymond. So don't put back on the citizens. If you call and it rings 3 times, to call back later on. It's the council's responsibility. Hire more officers, utilize Measure B for what it was intended for.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so nobody else can forward. Close public comment on this item. Vote on this? No vote required. Yes. Okay, so now we're on to council report. With District 1, John.
First off, I talked to with family, and I remember when they celebration of life became the 26th. And hopefully I'll remember the country had with Roger, because he truly was a pillar of our community. And also remember that next week school is starting up again, so I'll be careful driving at all times, but especially around the school area. That's about all I have. Thank you.
District 2.
I was able to attend the John Fall Memorial Service. I know a lot of my fellow council members are there as well. I just want to commend Sandy Shiver and Frank Petro on the work that they did to make that memorial happen. And I also want to commend Public Works for how beautiful the park looked for Joan. I thought it was a beautiful tribute to her life. and legacy. And I was really proud of my community for coming together for her. I would also like to express my sincere condolences to the Wood family. I care deeply about Chi Chi and Roger, and this is a very painful loss for our community, and I just can't express how deeply saddened I am for the passing of Roger. And I have seen Public Works out painting our crosswalks for our kids. Just want to make sure that we are working diligently on that, and that our community is also as diligent to watch for our children. And I also want to commend the Taylor family on standing up for their son and for working with the city to get this policy passed. I can't imagine how painful this was for them. But again, I'm proud of our community for coming together for this tragic event, this loss, and hopefully this policy will carry us forward and help us with providing guidance to residents to get some policies passed, traffic calming measures.
Okay, District 3, yeah.
I too would like to give my condolences to Chi Chi and the Woods family. I had nothing but wonderful experiences with Roger. He was one of my early supporters when I first ran for council. Every time I had a conversation with him, it was always a history lesson and very enjoyable stories about Atwater. So again, my condolences to his family. I do have one gripe that I'd like to bring up to interim city manager. Or it's regarding our email and your skills. I don't know how things you've had on council, probably from staff as well. It wasn't until recently when I did a deep dive into my junk mail that I found a pretty decent amount of emails that residents have sent that just sent straight to spam. So there's really no point in us having a spam filter if we still have to go through and digging through that filter to look for legit emails. Lastly, school starts in 2 days. So wake up a little bit earlier in the morning, make sure you're on your commute before the kids are out there. They will kind of slow you down a little bit. Pay attention to the roads, less with the phones and so forth, and let's keep our kids safe this year.
Hey, Brian, District 4.
Yeah, my family's prayers are also with the Wood family. It's tragic anytime you lose somebody you love. I also want to thank Pastor Miller for his time here. He's been nothing but positive and uplifting for the most part. Always prayerful for the council and has supported us through thick and thin. So I just want to thank him for his dedication and his love for this city. And Adam Connor, I ain't dead yet, man.
I thought that was kind of an interesting comment that he made. Wednesday's the last message. Wednesday's the last day to file. So, saying stuff like that might get somebody to look against you. Hopefully it does. Okay, so then just a few more minutes here. Cal Fire deployment, several of our firefighters have been dispatched to various fires in California. And it has got word that Chief Randall is going to be heading to the state of Washington for one of their fires. But to be gone for 21 days or something. But be assured that all the positions here in the city are backfilled by Cal Fire. We do have firefighters on duty, even though we are assisting other agencies. Joe Hoffer isn't here, but do want to thank him for PAL and Junior Giant program. Some of my grandchildren participated in the Junior Giants after being in Little League. Totally different leagues, totally different age groups, the range of ages. My kids had a great time and they were able to help younger players develop skills. So it was a great thing. And as far as being first day of school on Wednesday, I believe the multi-agency task force will be on duty. So we'll have officers from all the agencies in Merced County here. I plan on doing a ride along on the first day of school to see how that all goes. I know there were some comments on social today about the need to have a cop at every single school, every day, morning and night. Well, that's great. That's great. That's great. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But we're gonna be out on Wednesday, and I think a lot of people that think that red lights, stop signs, speed limit signs are just suggestions, we're going to find out that that's really not the case. So with that, we are going to now go to closed session. Public employee appointment, title city manager. Speaker cards.
No speaker cards, no raised hands.
If there are any members of the public that would like to speak, please come it down.
Sean Connor, Drakeley, District 3. I think that it would be really great if we could hire on a city manager to a permanent position who's been part of our community for a really long time and has potentially and possibly put in a lot of time for our community. And I think that would be a great change of pace and really help the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I know you want to say something.
Another thing I couldn't mention. Please, council, get somebody that's been part of another job and that knows accounting, a little bit of finance background, and that's been in our community forever. I know since you're 17.
Anybody else come forward? Closing vote. Comment, and we're going to go into closed session. We'll be back afterwards.